Today we have five, today we have five verses lined up 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, and 71. And because they actually the same concept is continuing through the five, that's why I wanted to cover them together. Maybe it might, if it's long, we'll take a call on that. So we'll start with verse number 67. Idam te na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na chashushrushave vacyam na cha mamayobhaya suyati. So the verse translates to, this is never to be spoken by you to one devoid of austerity, who is not devoted, does not render service, or one who cavils or finds petty objections about God, about me, about God. So, word by word, idam this, te by you, na not, a tapaskaya to one who, tapasya is one who is austere, right? So, a tapaskaya becomes one who is devoid of austerity, na not. A bhaktaya, same thing, bhakti is devotion, a bhaktaya becomes one who is not devoted. Kadachan, ever, na not, cha, and a shushushve, that means one who is not service oriented. Vachyam to be spoken, na not cha, and mam, me, yah, that person or one who abhaya suyati, cables or finds unnecessary faults about me, that God is like this, and does God exist, so on and so forth. So whatever, whoever thinks like that. So this is never to be spoken by you to one devoid of austerity, who is not devoted, does not render service, or one who finds petty objections about me. So let's chant it together. Idam te na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana न चाशुश्रूष्वेवाचयं न च मां योऽभयसूयति. So today, the five verses that we have lined up for us for the session are actually the verses in which Lord Krishna is underscoring the value of the great sermon that has been given by him. And he's also laying down the ground rules for this Parmam, Guhyatam, secret knowledge to be passed down to posterity. So, this verse, if you look at the words, is specifying the qualities that the seeker must possess to imbibe the secret knowledge. One is tapaha or austerity, second is bhakti, devotion, then third is shushushya or service orientation, and last is not finding unnecessary faults, which is the word used is abhaya suyati. So these are the four conditions. And let's revise these conditions because we have been discussing them. And now that we are coming to the end of the Bhagavad Gita, we should know what they stand for. So the first word is tapa, austerity, the first condition. So tap, refers to both physical and mental austerities. Nature of the body, mind, and senses is such that if we feed them, they become insatiable. If we control them, then they become disciplined. Just we see in our daily chores, I mean, our daily routine, you have to be disciplined. So, austerity is this self imposed discipline. Self imposed is very important. We call for it and we practice it. So, it is the capacity to say no to the world of temptation around us, And this is important to purify our body, mind, and intellect while we are conducting ourselves in the world, performing our duties. This helps us avoid dissipation of our energies, and we are able to channelize them towards the goal that we have set for ourselves. And in this goal setting, we have been discussing this. The ultimate goal is the attainment of the self. And austerity was discussed in chapter 9 in detail, and also as the qualities of a bhakta, a jnani, a divine person in chapters 12, 13, and 16, respectively. Next, we come to the word bhakti or devotion. Devotion, again, we have been discussing, is not just routine prayer that, I sit down in puja for half an hour every morning and then I start doing pretty much what I want, or performance of rituals that I will fast for the 9 days during the Navratris. I will keep my whatever, whatever fasts. It's not, it's not that. Chapter 12 talked about the qualities of a bhakta. These were 35 qualities that we had discussed then. All these qualities are unfolded by true devotion. Now, what is devotion? We have been discussing over the previous set of verses of this chapter. We have been visiting and revisiting love and devotion. And love and devotion are actually two aspects of the same emotion, depending on the object being loved or being devoted to. So, when we direct this emotion towards a worldly object like a pet, a family, a home, it is termed as love. When the same emotion is directed towards a higher being, Guru, God, etc., it becomes devotion. Third word is shushushaya or service orientation. Now, here only human beings have the capacity to serve and sacrifice and work towards a higher cause or a higher goal. And this was the fundamental principle on which chapters 3, 4, and 5 were based. And they encouraged yajna or sacrifice, right? So, sacrifice in the spirit of service, right? That is what we had been discussing. And yajna is always dedication of our actions to a higher ideal, performed in the spirit of service and sacrifice, meaning not expecting anything in return, but just being focused on our goal. And it is through this discipline, service, and sacrifice that actually material prosperity and mental peace will follow. Again, it's one of the natural laws which comes into play here. But what happens as far as we are concerned through service, through yajna, is that we become more productive. We are more focused towards the goal. And the higher the ideal or the goal we set for ourselves, we will generate more energy, and self realization is the highest goal that we can set. And you may recollect that verse 10 of chapter 3, so that was the Karma Yoga, talked of Yagya as the Kamadhenu or the milch cow in our scriptures, which grants us all our desires. So, what it was saying was that through Yagya, we will satisfy all our desires and therefore our vasanas, and we will attain peace because we will sublimate, hopefully, our vasanas and not add to the baggage. And then, of course, we are talking about the last word is that one who finds petty faults or unnecessary faults is one who lacks Shraddha or faith. So let's revisit Shraddha. What the God is saying that you should have Shraddha in God. Now, Shraddha we have discussed again in those earlier set of chapters, and also in the Shraddha Traya Vibhag Yoga, that Shraddha goes beyond belief. See, in case of a natural calamity or an extreme situation, the first thing that happens to us is that our belief is shaken up in God. But if we have faith, Shraddha, then what happens is that this Shraddha actually becomes stronger and stronger, and we always try to identify what is the message God is trying to send to me through this calamity, right? And of course, study of scriptures and reflection upon what is being said in the scriptures are great encouragers. So Shraddha is the discipline at the intellectual level. And it is very important because we are trying to reach that infinity through our finite apparatus. Without Shraddha, we cannot penetrate the unknown because of a finite equipment. So, Shraddha is the unshaken belief in a possibility that we cannot logically explain today. And all pioneering discoveries are based on Shraddha. So, if you were to talk, let's say 50 years back, that you could have a device which could connect without wire or any kind of physical equipment, and you could communicate, I mean, you could talk, voice could be transmitted, people would have laughed at that person. But the person who discovered it believed in it. So, Shraddha at that point transcends logic. It cannot be captured with logic. It is a belief that this is possible. So, Shraddha is more than faith. We loosely translate it to faith in English because that's the closest word. It is also the ability to feedback into the system, to self educate. What AI is doing today, actually, they keep feeding back. So, Shraddha is our ability to feed back into our intellect, and also the ability to pursue a thing till we attain it, or we are clear that it cannot be attained. So, to pursue a thing till its logical conclusion. So, to go to the very end of knowledge till we transform ourselves and start living these values. So, Shraddha also implies living the values that we are talking about. So, Lord Krishna is therefore advising Arjun that this knowledge is not to be shared with persons who lack austerity, devotion, and are not service oriented, and those who find unnecessary faults with God. All these four conditions are necessary, and of course, they are the pointers as to how a personality has to be tuned to that one reality. Now, the thing is that in case this tuning is not happening, then the inner unfoldment cannot happen. And we have to understand that just as the sun is there for everyone to receive, so if we are not able to understand God or comprehend, then it is our problem. That means our equipment needs some adjustments. So, if we are not able to understand this philosophy and we are not able to remove our delusions, we should first work on the tuning of our equipment so that we are able to develop the conditions that we are talking about here: austerity, devotion, service orientation, and not finding unnecessary faults. And that is what we are doing through the disciplines of the Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and the Jnana Yoga at the level of the body, mind, and intellect, respectively. So, also, we must appreciate that at the end of the day, we can understand as per our capacity. So, see, the great text is in front of us. We have read it, and there are so many interpretations of this which are available to us, and everyone has interpreted the same verse in different ways. That is because what happens is, firstly, the scripture is so deep, and secondly, if we are not there, it's like, let me illustrate this with an example. Suppose someone has been staying inland throughout their lives, they've never been to the sea or to the ocean. Now, to explain to that person the concept of an ocean is very difficult. You can try to carry a bucket of water from the ocean and say, okay, this is what the ocean water is like. Maybe you can even get a tanker full of ocean water and say that, this is just some small part of that ocean. The person will still not understand the vastness and the expanse of the ocean till the time that can only happen when you reach there, when you actually go to the ocean. So, Bhagavad Gita is like this. It's like a mirror. It's showing us what we are attuned to. So, see, you have many sessions on Bhagavad Gita. So the management expert will say the management techniques which come out of the Bhagavad Gita. A revolutionary will say, okay, this is Bhagavad Gita saying, get up and fight, right? So it calls for a revolution. Action oriented person will see the technique of perfect action here. A person who wants to attain God will see the roadmap to attain that Paramatman. So we are seeing, while we are reading the scripture, we are seeing as per our capacity, or we are comprehending the text as per our capacity. So, therefore, when we are not able to see that one reality, which is what the scripture is talking about, we are the ones who should correct our tuning to understand and align it with the great philosophy that is covered in the text, so that we are able to understand the message which Lord Krishna is giving to us in the Bhagavad Gita. With that, let's move on to verse number 68. या इदं परमं गुह्यं मद्भक्तेष्वभिधास्यति भक्तिं मयि परां कृत्वा मामे वैश्यत्य संशयः. So the verse translates to, one who with supreme devotion to me teaches the supreme secret to my devotees doubtless comes to me. So let's take this up word by word. Ya, who, idam, this, parmam, supreme, guyam, secret, mad bhakteshu, mad is mine, bhakta is devotee, mad bhakteshu becomes to my devotees, abhidhayas, abhidhasyati, shall declare, bhaktim, devotion, mai, in me, param, greatest, kritva, having done, mam, to me again, ev, only, eshyati, shall come, asanshaya is without a doubt. So one who with supreme devotion to me teaches the supreme secret to my devotees doubtless comes to me. So let's chant it together. या इदं परमं गुह्यं मद्भक्तेष्वभिधास्यति भक्तिं मयि परां कृत्वा मामे वैश्यत्य संशयाः. So this verse, 68th verse and the next one, 69th verse, these two verses are glorifying the teachers who are transmitting the correct interpretation of this secret knowledge, Parmam Guyam, to Lord's devotees, Mad Bhakteshu, God's devotees. So this uh, conversation or this spiritual knowledge given by the Lord is the most secret knowledge that Lord has been saying. A secret knowledge is that knowledge which is not accessible or comprehensible by majority of the people, simply because the Paramatman is inside each one of us. And yet we can't seem to find it. We are looking for it outside in temples, mosques, churches. So the God is within us and we're looking for it outside. This is, therefore, it is the greatest secret that firstly we have to do a course correction. And why it happens that we are looking for it outside is because all our equipments are extroverted. And it is only through our conscience which keeps talking to us. It's up to us how much we let it speak and how much we listen to it. But it is only our conscience through which we connect with the Lord. Our conscience is always telling us the correct course of action. And so that is one. Second is spiritual knowledge by itself is very profound, very deep. And it's not realizable through direct perception. The senses will not take us there. So, assistance of a guru, the scriptures, is a great help and actually is a requirement. And also here, it's very rarely that people put in effort to understand, firstly, understand this knowledge and then impart the knowledge or teach the knowledge. So, what the God is saying is that this knowledge, or such a person who understands the this supreme secret and imparts it, is having the greatest devotion towards the Lord. So, also, we must appreciate that this spiritual philosophy can be imparted only to by and to those who identify with that ideal. And the teacher, the guru, must live up to it, must practice it. It's not just you chant the Bhagavad Gita and you say that, oh, I know it by heart. It does that mean anything? I can always go back and read the verse. I have to understand what is being said. Is it there in my personality? So that it's only those people who try to implement it in their lives, then one can share it really with others. Till otherwise we are just repeaters of what is being said here. So you keep chanting the verses and translating them, but that is not the teaching that we are talking about here. Also, when we share whatever knowledge that we have with others, our own knowledge increases as well. And this knowledge that we have, by imparting to others, starts translating or transforming into wisdom. And of course, there are many forms of service. But according to Lord Krishna, this is the highest service that a person can do. And this is transmitting of this most secret knowledge to others. And the Lord in this verse is declaring that those who share this spiritual knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita to his devotees reach him or attain moksha. The knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita contains the most profound secret of life, and by understanding it, because the teacher has to understand it and implement it in his or her life, is actually the key to liberation. With that, let's move on to verse number 69. न च तस्मान् मनुष्येषु कश्चिन्मे प्रियकृतं भविता न च मे तस्माद् अन्या प्रियतरो भुवि. So the verse 69 translates to, none amongst humans does dearer service to me, nor shall there be another in the world dearer to me. Let's translate. Na, not, cha, and tasmat, than one who. Manusheshu is amongst men, amongst human. Kachit, anyone. Me, my. Priya kritam. Priya is dear, kritam is action. Priya kritam becomes, translates to one who does dearest service. Bhavita shall be, na, not, cha, and may, my, tasmat, than such a person, anya, another, priyatar, dearer, bhuvi, in the world. So none amongst humans does dearer service to me, nor shall there be another in the world dearer to me. So let's chant it together. न च तस्मान् मनुष्येषु कञ्चित् मे प्रियकृतं भविता न च मे तस्माद् अन्या प्रियतरो भुवि. So we are continuing. Lord Krishna is continuing with the glorification of the teachers who give the correct interpretation of this secret knowledge to Lord's devotees. So Lord goes on to say that imparting this knowledge is the greatest form of devotion. It is the greatest service. So he's saying, no, priya kritam, so karma, action, dearest service towards God. Now, here I would like to draw your attention to the four yajnas that we had talked about in chapter 4, which was the Jnana Karma Sannyas Yoga. Am I right? And this was, we were talking about the yajnas, and verse number 28 presented four types of yajnas in front of us. The sacrifice of wealth, sacrifice of austerity, yoga, and self knowledge. Okay, so let's take them up. What we talked about then. Of course, yajna I'll just cover in detail, but yajna is when you offer something, and kindling of fire. So it's worship to the fire god. So you give something to the fire god and you invoke, and the god's blessing comes in the form of the kindling of the fire. So dravya yajna, yajna of wealth. Wealth means material ingredients, matter or material, clothes, grain, wealth. So basically, we are talking about material wealth. So what this yajna talked about was the ahuti or the offering is the material wealth, and the kindling of the fire is recipient's wealth. Okay, the person you're giving to. So, for example, we have a common park or a common area, and we want to keep it clean. So I write a check saying that okay, 10,000 for from my side for cleaning of this common area for next 2 months, let's say. What have I done? I have given wealth, dravya yajna. Then the next yajna was the tapo yajna, or the yajna of austerity. That means, in the similar example, that instead of writing a check, maybe I write a check, but I also say, okay, whenever you have the having the cleanliness drive, I will go down, come down and help with the cleaning. So tapo yajna is austerity, physical discomfort or physical control or physical channelization towards the cause. So, physical sacrifice is always superior to material sacrifice. So, here, what is the ahuti? What is the offering? Our body. Our physical needs and comfort is being given up. And again, the kindling of the fire is the recipient's material wealth or physical benefit, right? So, this was tapo yajna. The third was the yoga yajna, where the ahuti is our mental and intellectual faculties. So, that is what we are giving, offering. And the kindling of the fire is the recipient's, the person who's hearing or who's listening, the recipient's mental and intellectual evolution. Right? So, this transmitting of knowledge will fall under this category. And I will also cover the fourth yajna, which we will do, I think, one or two verses down the session today, which was the Swadhyaya Gyan Yajna, or the yajna of self knowledge, where the highest form of service, this is the highest form of service and sacrifice, whereby the study and reflection of the scriptures, contemplation on them, meditation, we aim to realize the self. So, the ahuti is our unmanifest desires, our vasanas, and the kindling of the fire is the understanding of that Paramatman. So that is the highest form of yajna that we had talked. Now, this was chapter 4, verse 28. You can always go back and look at it. So these sacrifices are important here. And they were presented in the order of subtlety in which the recipient is made more and more self-sufficient. So to whom we are doing the service for. So this verse is declaring that the spiritual teacher has a person who is giving this out, the secret knowledge, is actually having the greatest devotion towards the Lord, and sharing this knowledge, this supreme secret knowledge, is the highest service to the humanity. So there are many forms of service, but the highest service that a person can do is to transmit this most secret knowledge to others. So, we do a lot of service, feeding the poor, charity to the needy people, building a grand temple, but they are not in the same category. So, it is those who share the spiritual knowledge of the Bhagwad Gita to his devotees are extremely dear to him. Amongst the entire creation, they are the dearest. And they, I mean, they are the dearest to him, so obviously they will go there. Now, what about the people who are the devoted seekers? That is what we are going to cover over the next two verses. So let's move on to verse number 70. Adhyayedhayate chayayemam. That was wrong. Adhishyayate chayayemam dharmam samvadamavayo jnana tenaham me Ishtam syameti me matihi. So the verse translates to, and those who study this sacred dialogue of ours, by them I am worshipped by Jnana Yagya, sacrifice of wisdom, such is my view. So let's take this up word by word, and my pronunciation went slightly bad, so we'll fix it in the next chanting. Adheshyate, shall study. Cha and yah who imam this dharmayam, sacred, samvadam, dialogue, avayo, ours, jnana yagyen. So jnana is knowledge, yagya we have briefly covered, sacrifice. So Jnani again translates to sacrifice of wisdom. Ten, by that person. Aham, I. Isht, Isht is worshipped. Syam, am. Iti, thus. May, my. Mati, view. So, and those who study this sacred dialogue of ours, by them, I am worshipped by Jnani Yagya, or the sacrifice of wisdom. Such is my view. So let's chant it together. अध्येशयते च य एमं धर्मयं संवादमावयो ज्ञानयज्ञेन ते हानमि इष्टं स्यामेति मे मतिः. So now Lord Krishna is shifting the attention to the students, to the seekers who are studying the sacred text. So this great philosophy of life has been presented to us as a conversation between Lord Krishna, the infinite, and Prince Arjuna, the Kshatriya warrior, the finite, as the Bhagwad Gita. So Lord Krishna is saying that those who study, the word used is adheshyate. So those who study the Bhagavad Gita, contemplate upon its meaning, reflect and try to understand it thoroughly, this great way of life, the word used is dharma, worship God through jnana yagya. Right? So again, this is the fourth yagya that we talked about in the previous verse. Yagya is the worship of the fire god, the ritual in which the practitioner is making offering to the fire god for a goal. So the yagya itself is actually symbolizing the ability to give up or to sacrifice, and sacrifice towards a goal. So the whole process is complete when we have the capacity to give up and give it up for a goal. It is through this practice that we grow spiritually, through the spirit of sacrifice. So yagya or yajna is an action done in the spirit of service and sacrifice for a higher goal, common cause, or a value system. Now we can choose limited ideals, or we can choose the absolute ideals. And this is what we had covered in chapter 4, verses 25 to 35, which was the core of that chapter, where 12 yajnas were laid out in front of us. So it is only through the service of sacrifice for a higher non-selfish goal that we become from attachment. Therefore, it is very important for purification of ourselves. And when we start purifying ourselves, our understanding, our discrimination becomes clearer and sharper. So, the study of the scriptures and regular contemplation upon them kindles the fire of knowledge in us. So, it's not that, it has to be done every day, all the time. Of course, study you may do some part of the day, but reflection is a process that we do continuously. So, an intelligent seeker will offer this fire of knowledge. Into this fire of knowledge, the false values, the negative tendencies, the delusions. So, that is given into the fire. And that is the significance of the word that is being used, Jnani Yagya. So, that is uh, being used in the Bhagavad Gita only, the word Jnani Yagya. So, according to Lord Krishna, such seekers are the greatest devotees of the infinite, as they are worshipping the Lord through Gyan Yagya. And this is the last yajna that I mentioned in the previous verse. Of course, verse number 28 of chapter 4, that is where we had covered, where the four yajnas were presented. This is the Swadhyay Gyan Yagya of that verse. Also, please reflect that over the last three verses, we have covered devotion, bhakti, karm, action, and gyan, knowledge. So, karm, bhakti, and gyan are the three principal yogas at the level of the body, mind, and intellect to purify at the so that we can become purified at these three levels respectively, and that we have been talking throughout our sessions on the Bhagavad Gita. With that, let's move on to the last verse for the day, verse number 71. श्रद्धावाननसूयश्च शृणुयादपि यो नरः सोऽपि मुक्तशुभान् लोकान् प्राप्नुयात् punykarmanam. So the verse translates to, and even one who listens full of Shraddha and free from malice, he too liberated will attain the worlds of those meritorious deeds. So let's take this up word by word. Shraddhavan, so one who has Shraddha. Anasuya, free from malice. Cha and Shrunuyat, listens, may listen, shall listen. Api, even, ya, such a person. Nara, human. Sa, that human. Api, also. Mukta, liberated. Shubhan is what is shubh, what is pleasant, happy. Lokan is plural. So plural for loks, lok, so worlds. Prapyuyat, prapyuyat, shall attain. Punya karmanam, as a result of the punya kar. So punya is good, meritorious, karma is deeds. So, and even one who listens, full of shraddha and free from malice, he too, liberated, will attain the worlds of these meritorious deeds. So let's chant it together. श्रद्धावाननसूयश्च शृणुयादपि यो नरः सोऽपि मुक्तशुभान् लोकान् प्राप्नुयात् पुनः. So we must appreciate that not everyone has the capacity, the intellectual capacity to completely comprehend the depth of this dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjun, the depth of this knowledge that was transmitted by Krishna to Arjun. So Lord Krishna is assuring that even those people who hear with Shraddha, with faith, and are free from malice, bear no ill will to people, and to whatever comes, whatever the contact, they have no ill will. They also benefit and move ahead towards this ultimate goal. So, people who do not have the capacity maybe to read or to study or to reflect, but they listen to the gurus or the people who are reciting the scriptures, these people also add to their meritorious deeds, and because as a result of these meritorious deeds, they attain the world of heaven, meritorious higher worlds, where more pleasant the worlds. So the word api meaning even, links this verse to the previous three verses in which the Lord has declared that those who impart Lord's teachings perform the ultimate service and are the greatest devotees. Those who study and reflect on this knowledge worship God through Jnani Yagya, and those who have who listen to the guru or to the reciters, people who narrate, can bring about spiritual awakening to a seeker who is free from malice. This condition is important and is endowed by with shraddha, second important condition. So this will propel the seeker onward on the spiritual journey, which will ultimately culminate in enlightenment. And with that, we conclude our today's session.